Hi there, my name's Damien, and in today's demonstration I'm going to show you how to build a Power Automate flow that will allow you to dynamically attach multiple files to an email. So if you haven't already, please make sure you like and subscribe to my channel, and let's go ahead and jump into my demonstration. So here I am in my document library, and you can see here I've got multiple files here already, and I'm going to build a flow today that will attach all of the files that are in this folder to an email. And then to extend that demonstration, I'm going to use a SharePoint list, which we can see here. I've got a list of 3 different customers. They have an account reference and also an email address, and I'm going to filter that document library and send a unique email to each of those 3 customers based on the account reference and a prefix on each of those files. So if we have a quick look at Brian, who's got my email address, his account reference is BS001. And then if we look quickly through the files that we've got here in the document library, I have 3 files that are prefixed with BS001. So that'll be the second stage of my demonstration. So let's go ahead and create our flow. So we have already a manual triggered flow, and onto the first action I'm going to use get files. And for the purpose of this, all we need to get are the properties. So we'll choose this get files action. And the aim here is to get an array of all the files that are in a particular folder within our document library. So we'll select our SharePoint site. We'll go ahead and select our document library, which is my default document library known as Documents. And then I'm going to limit this get files action to a particular folder. And so we know already we're in our default document library, which is referred to as shared documents. And you've got 2 ways of navigating this. The first is to select the shared documents, which will finish at that path, or you can click on the arrow here and show the contents of the shared documents folder. So we'll go ahead and click on that arrow, and then that will allow us to select the account files folder. And in this occasion, I'm going to go ahead and select the folder itself. There we go, there's our path. So this action here will return an array of all the files that are within this folder within our document library. So the next step is to get the file content of all of these files, because of course we want to attach that file content to our email. And what will actually happen is when we build this action, it will insert itself automatically into an apply to each. So we'll go ahead and pick the site, which is DamoBird365, and then we'll go ahead and pick the identifier. And so one of the most common mistakes you see here is when we search for ID, you select the ID, which is in fact the wrong ID. This is the item ID of the file on the document library. We're looking for the identifier, which is further down our dynamic content here. And as you can see, once I've selected that, it inserts our get file content into an apply to each. Now I'm going to return back to this apply to each shortly, but first I'm going to insert the send email action, and you'll see why in a minute. So for our email, I'm going to send this initially to myself with a subject of here are your attachments, and here are your files attached as the body. And the thing we really want to see are the advanced options. So you can see here we've got the ability to add an attachment, and it's looking for a name and a file content. So if we're looking to attach just a single file, we'd insert a file name and always make sure we include the file extension. And then the content would be based on the get file content action. But for the purpose of this, I'm just going to type in some random strings here, because the important thing I want to show you is how this information is sent to this particular action. So you'll see here we've got a slightly different editor option here. We can switch to the input for the entire array. And so if I click on that button, it creates here an array with the big square brackets and a single object with 2 key values, the name and the content bytes. And it's this that we were looking to replicate in our apply to each action. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to copy this object we've got here with just the curly brackets. I'm going to go back into our apply to each, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to insert a compose action, and we're going to paste that straight back into our compose action. And here we have our object, but we need to get the file name and the content dynamically. So I'm going to remove the file name that I've created, and I'm going to search our dynamic content for the file name. And the important thing to note here again is that you have both the name and the file name with extension. So for us, we need to make sure that we have the extension, because otherwise the receiving application, whether that be Outlook or another client, will not know how to open that file when it receives it if there's no extension. So we'll go ahead and pick that. And then when it comes to the content bytes, we're using some dynamic content from the get file content action above. Now, the important thing for this particular key value pair is we must remove everything, including the double quotes. And then all we need to do is select the file content. So you can see here, I already have that selected in my dynamic content. I go ahead and select that, and that is the compose action complete using the dynamic content. Now, one final step, I just want to rename this compose action. And in this case, I'm just going to call it attachment. Attachment, not s. So now jumping back outside of our apply to each, we need to get this compose action with our object into an array. And so there's a method online that's commonly referred to as Peter's method, which allows you to create an array without the use of a series of variables. So we're just going to use compose actions. And so I'm going to rename this one here to my attachment array. And then I'm going to build an expression. So this particular expression is based on the outputs, and the outputs are based on the name of our compose step. So my compose step above is called attachment. And so we'll just quick look again. So attachment is the name of my compose action, and my attachment array is based on the outputs from the attachment action. And so we jump back onto our send an email. We can remove this array that I created at the beginning, and we can now insert our dynamic content, which is based on the attachment array. And that is our email ready to send all of our attachments. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save, and hopefully that will all complete without any problems. Okay, perfect. And we'll go ahead and now test this. So just to remind ourselves, while we're waiting for all the steps to complete here for the flow, we're going to get a list of, or an array, sorry, of all the files that are in this particular folder and in our account files folder. We're then going to run an apply to each and get the file content of all those files and insert them into a compose action in that particular object format for our send email action. We're then going to use Peter's method to create an array, and we'll then pass that array to send an email. So I've heard already the email has come in, and we can see all of our attachments. And if we want to open one of them, I can go and preview the documents. So we've got our Word document, and we've got our PDF document, and all of these, of course, will open in preview mode in my online Outlook Online. We have a text document as well. So that's basically the first outcome that we're looking to achieve, getting a series of attachments. So my second stage is I want to now filter this list and send just a unique list of attachments to those customers based on this account reference prefix. So I'm going to go back into my Cloud Flow, and we'll go ahead and edit my flow now. And the first thing I'm going to insert is a get items action, because I'm looking to get a list of those customers from my list. So I'll go ahead and select my SharePoint site. Go ahead and select the SharePoint list, which in this case is called list of customers. And then we're looking to filter the attachment array. So we're going to look for the filter array action. And if we just have a quick think about this one, I have an array here with a list of files. And basically I want to retrieve the files that have the, let's see, the account reference in them. So for the from, we're going to take the attachment array. When it comes to the value we're looking to compare, we don't actually have a dynamic value here. We need to use an expression. So it's based on the item, which is each of the items from this array, but the name of the array is appropriately called name, because you remember previously we created an array. If we quickly have a look at that, we created an array where the key value was name, so we're looking to search these. And then we don't want them to be equal to, but we want them to start with. And this is where we can select the dynamic content for the account reference. And you'll notice now that it puts that also into an apply to each, because obviously we've got multiple items. We've got 3 in fact. And so this will give us 3 unique filtered arrays with those attachments where the name of the file starts with the account reference. And then of course within each of these apply to each loops we want to send an email. So we now need to modify this email action and bring it up into the apply to each. Now one of the flaws at the moment of Power Automate or quirk maybe is that you can't drag the action above unless you've got more than one action already there. So I'm going to insert a temporary compose. We're not actually going to use that, but that will allow me to drag my email, send an email action in, and then I can delete that compose. And the only change we're looking to make here now is rather than rely on the full attachment array, we're going to use the filter array body. So I'm going to change that now to the filter array body. And this will create 3 unique emails with attachments that are specific to that particular user. So I'm also going to take out my default email address. I'm going to use dynamic content here. And as we're in a loop using the get items, I'm going to use the email address, which if we just jump back into my list, I have a column here called email. So for Brian, we will use my email address. And just for completeness, I'll insert Brian's name at the front here. So the column value I'm looking to use is title. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and save that and test it. I think Flow is actually going to give me a warning, and it's based on this get items action that we have. And the reason for that is potentially get items could retrieve a massive list. As I know I've only got 3, I'm just going to go ahead and test it, but you may well want to restrict the number of items that are returned by using a filter or something similar, really depending on your use case. So we'll go ahead and run that now. I'm going to jump across into my email. And so what I'm expecting is an email for Brian with 3 attachments. And it should include all the attachments that have the BS prefix. And so we can see there, we have the image, the Word document, and the PDF all beginning with BS. And there we go. That's how we attach unique attachments to our email. That's also how we attach multiple attachments to our email using Power Automate. And if you haven't already, please make sure you like and subscribe. And if you've got any questions or any ideas that you'd like me to cover, please leave your comments below. Thanks again for watching. Bye.